Los Angeles, California. The Dragon's Den Training Hall. August 17, 1967. Thursday night, 9:47 p.m. The air hung thick with liniment oil and leather, punctuated by the rhythmic thud of heavy bags swaying on chains. 43 people had gathered for a private demonstration of traditional Muay Thai techniques. But tonight, something unexpected was about to happen. What happened in the next 11 seconds would be classified for years. Only 12 people witnessed the full exchange. The fighter involved refused to discuss it publicly. This is what really happened. The Dragon's Den isn't what you'd expect. It occupies the second floor of a converted warehouse on Spring Street, accessible only by a narrow staircase that smells of old wood and determination. The walls are bare brick, the floor scuffed hardwood, marked by decades of shuffling feet and spilled blood. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. This is where serious fighters come when gyms feel too soft, when they need to remember what martial arts actually costs. A demonstration was underway. The sharp crack of shin against pads echoed off brick walls. Muay Thai practitioners moved through combinations, while spectators lined the walls, some taking notes, others simply watching, with the quiet respect fighters reserve for genuine skill. Nobody knew that within minutes, everything would change. At the far end of the hall stands Somrak Kamsing. His forearms are thick as fence posts, each the circumference of a normal man's thigh. 6 feet 2 inches tall, 238 pounds of muscle, earned through 10,000 hours of conditioning that would break most men. A scar runs from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone, a souvenir from Bangkok's underground fight circuit. Somrak isn't just another Muay Thai practitioner. He's a Lumpini Stadium champion with a record of 47 wins, 2 losses. He spent 8 years training in Thailand under Kru Yodtong, learning techniques refined over centuries. People respect him because he's proven himself in the ring, where reputation means nothing and only results matter. He's never been knocked down in professional competition. Somrak believes technique means nothing without power. He's demolished boxers, wrestlers, and karate practitioners with the same brutal efficiency. To him, Chinese kung fu is dancing, beautiful perhaps, but useless when fists start flying. He's about to learn otherwise. 9:52 p.m. The side door opens quietly. Bruce Lee enters wearing simple black cotton pants and a white t-shirt. 5 feet 7 inches tall, 135 pounds, he moves across the floor like water, finding its path through stones. The room notices, but doesn't understand yet. Dan Inosanto invited Bruce. He wanted Somrak to see something different, to understand that martial arts exists beyond what most people imagine. Dan knows what others don't. This small man has studied every fighting system he could find, kept what worked, discarded what didn't. Most have no idea who he is. Somrak stops mid-demonstration, his padded glove frozen in the air. His eyes track Bruce's movement across the floor with the assessment of a predator evaluating prey. He notices the relaxed shoulders, the lack of defensive posture, the casual confidence that reads as either mastery or foolishness. Too small, too light, not a threat. He decides to make his point clear about traditional Chinese martial arts, to demonstrate once again why practical, battle-tested Muay Thai dominates philosophical hand-waving. Somrak crosses the room, each footfall heavy enough to vibrate the floorboards beneath decades of accumulated scuff marks. Students and spectators part instinctively, pressing themselves against brick walls, creating a corridor of space between the Thai champion and this unknown Chinese man. The temperature in the room seems to drop. Conversations die mid-sentence. Even the heavy bags stop their gentle swaying. Bruce doesn't react, doesn't shift his weight or raise his hands, doesn't tense a single muscle. He simply stands and waits, like an ancient tree waiting for wind, rooted but ready to bend. "You're the kung fu guy Dan keeps talking about?" Somrak's voice carries across the suddenly quiet hall, each word deliberately loud enough for everyone to hear. Bruce nods once, a slight inclination of his head that acknowledges without submitting. "I study martial arts. I fought kung fu practitioners." Somrak lists his credentials like weapons being laid on a table, each statement a challenge. Fought karate black belts in Tokyo, fought boxers in Manila, fought judo champions in Sao Paulo. They all fell the same way, hard and fast. Pretty techniques don't survive contact with reality. Everyone falls eventually, Bruce replies, his tone measured, respectful even, showing none of the defensiveness Somrak expects. The question is what we learn from it. Falling teaches us about gravity. Getting up teaches us about character. Somrak's jaw tightens, muscles bunching visibly beneath his weathered skin. This isn't the reaction he wanted. He needs anger, needs fear, needs something he can dominate. Chinese kung fu is useless in a real fight. All that flowery hand-waving, all those forms practiced in parks, all that meditation and philosophy. It disappears the moment someone hits back hard enough to make you taste blood. He steps closer, invading Bruce's personal space, using his size advantage deliberately. I could prove it right now, right here, in front of everyone. Bruce meets his eyes without challenge, without backing down, but also without the aggressive posturing that lesser men use to mask insecurity. His voice remains calm, almost conversational. If you need to prove it, I accept. But understand, this isn't about Kung Fu versus Muay Thai. This is about two men testing their understanding against reality. I respect what you've accomplished. I hope you'll do the same, regardless of the outcome. Dan Inosanto steps forward, raising his hands. Gentlemen, this isn't necessary. Bruce speaks quietly but firmly. It's fine, Dan. Sometimes the only way through is through. He looks at Somrak. No rules? No rules, Somrak agrees. First man who can't continue loses. The crowd forms a rough circle, bodies pressing against walls and equipment, creating an impromptu arena. There's no turning back now. This moment has its own momentum, its own inevitability, like a boulder rolling downhill. All you can do is get out of the way or be crushed beneath it. 43 witnesses press against the walls, phones forgotten in pockets, conversations abandoned mid-sentence, suddenly understanding they're about to see something that will define what they believe about fighting, about martial arts, about the difference between theory and reality. Somrak strips off his shirt with deliberate showmanship, revealing the map of a warrior's life written across his torso in scar tissue and calloused muscle. A starburst scar spreads across his ribs from a broken bottle in Manila's underground circuit. Rope burns mark his shoulders from thousands of hours of clinch training. His knuckles look like they've been broken and healed wrong multiple times, forming sharp ridges of bone. He rolls his neck, the sound of cracking vertebrae echoing in the silence like small caliber gunfire. He rotates his shoulders, shakes out his arms, bounces on the balls of his feet. You should have said no, little man. You should have walked away while you still could. Bruce removes his watch, a simple Seiko with a leather band, and sets it carefully on a nearby bench beside someone's training gloves. He doesn't stretch, doesn't warm up, doesn't shadow box or perform any preparatory ritual that fighters use to intimidate opponents or calm nerves. He simply walks to the center of the forming circle and settles into a stance that looks almost casual to the untrained eye. Feet shoulder-width apart, weight distributed evenly, hands loose at his sides rather than raised in guard, his center of gravity perfectly balanced. But those who understand fighting see something else. A coiled spring, water held behind a dam, potential energy waiting for direction. Ready. The hall falls silent. Even the heavy bags have stopped swaying. The crowd holds its collective breath. In this suspended moment, you can hear the hum of fluorescent lights, the distant sound of traffic on Spring Street, someone's nervous breathing. Show me this useless kung fu, Somrak says. Bruce says nothing. Or maybe you're smart enough to be afraid. Somrak shifts his weight, preparing to attack. It begins. Somrak launches a lead kick, his shin cutting through air with the sound of a bat swinging for a home run. This is the Ted Trong, the straight kick that has crumpled ribs and ended fights throughout Bangkok's toughest stadiums. His shin aims for Bruce's lead leg, intending to destroy the foundation. Bruce shifts 6 inches. The kick finds air. Somrak's eyes narrow. What the hell? Somrak tries a rear roundhouse, the Thai kick that generates power from hip rotation and years of conditioning. Bruce doesn't block, doesn't counter. He simply isn't there when the kick arrives, having flowed slightly backward, like water receding from shore. Somrak follows with a jab-cross combination. Bruce's head moves in small circles, each punch missing by the width of a breath. Frustration clouds Somrak's face. He realizes his standard approach isn't working. This isn't how fights usually go. He decides to use his specialty, the clinch game, where his size and strength have always dominated. He commits everything. Somrak explodes forward, hands seeking Bruce's neck for the clinch, planning to deliver knee strikes that have ended 47 fights. His hands close on empty air. Bruce has sunk lower, too close for knees, too far for elbows. Somrak tries to reset, throws a brutal elbow that would shatter bone. The crack of air displacement is audible. Bruce weaves under it. The wooden floor shakes as Somrak plants his feet, his weight committed to overwhelming this smaller man through sheer force. After 8 seconds, Bruce stops retreating. Somrak throws a straight punch, committing his weight behind it. Bruce doesn't block, he redirects, using Somrak's momentum against him while simultaneously stepping inside his guard. What happens next takes less time than a heartbeat. Bruce's lead hand strikes Somrak's solar plexus with surgical precision. The 1-inch punch delivered from a distance that seems physically impossible. The sound isn't a thud or a crack. It's something between them, a compressed explosion of air and impact. Somrak's entire body convulses, his mouth opens but no sound emerges. For a moment, he seems suspended in time, his brain trying to process what his body already knows. Then, his knees buckle. Bruce takes a visible impact. Somrak's follow-through elbow catches him on the shoulder, spinning him slightly. Bruce grimaces, his left arm dropping. The crowd gasps. Maybe this small man can lose? Maybe size and power do matter? Bruce rolls his shoulder, testing the joint. He acknowledges Somrak's skill with a slight nod, but his eyes show he's already calculated the counter, already adapted to this opponent's pattern. The water has found the path around the stone. Time dilates. Somrak, recovering from the solar plexus strike, launches one final attack, a knee strike that has his full power behind it. Bruce's body shifts. Not a wind-up, not a telegraph, like a wave through water, starting from his back foot, rising through legs, through hips, through torso, through shoulder, exploding through fist. The Wing Chun's straight punch targets Somrak's sternum, not to break it, but to interrupt the electrical signals his heart sends to his body. The impact sound is unique, sharp and deep simultaneously. All 238 pounds go airborne. Not high, 6 inches, but completely horizontal. No control, no say in what happens next. Thud. The hardwood floor shakes. Somrak hits flat on his back, wind knocked from his lungs, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what happened. The crowd gasps as one organism. 11 seconds total. Bruce stands over Somrak, perfectly balanced. He could finish this, a heel strike to the throat, an elbow to the temple. Instead, he extends his hand. "Are you hurt?" Somrak attempts to rise, fails, accepts Bruce's hand. What did you do?" "Nothing you couldn't learn," Bruce replies, pulling him up. The crowd erupts, some in disbelief, some in argument, some frozen in shock. They saw it, but struggle to accept it. How does a man 50 pounds lighter dominate a champion? Bruce helps Somrak to the side of the room, one hand supporting his elbow with surprising gentleness for someone who just delivered devastating strikes. Somrak tests his ribs gingerly, expecting fractures, but finding only deep bruising. He works his jaw, rolls his shoulders, probes his sternum. Nothing broken, except assumptions, except the certainty that size and power trump everything else, except years of believing his style was complete. Bruce hands him a towel, gestures for him to sit on a nearby bench, then kneels to his level, not standing over him in dominance, but meeting him as equals in the aftermath of truth. "You telegraphed every technique 3 ways," Bruce begins, his tone not mocking but genuinely educational, the voice of a teacher who sees potential. "Your weight shifts before your strikes. Your left heel lifts a fraction before the right roundhouse. Your breathing changes before major attacks. You inhale deeply before committing power. Your eyes fix on targets 2 beats before you strike them." Against most opponents, These tells don't matter because you're faster and stronger anyway. But against someone studying you, reading you, you're broadcasting your intentions like radio signals. He continues, his hands moving to illustrate the principles he's explaining. When I moved inside your guard, you committed to power instead of protecting your center. You thought overwhelming force would compensate for the compromised position. That's when you were most vulnerable. Not when you were attacking with full technique, but when you abandoned technique for pure aggression. Power without foundation is a tree in a hurricane. Bruce's expression softens, the intensity of combat giving way to genuine respect. Being formless means adapting to what is, not forcing what should be. A powerful river doesn't fight the stones. It finds the path through them, around them, sometimes even through cracks in them. You're powerful, yes, genuinely powerful. Your shin conditioning is exceptional. Your clinch game is sophisticated. Your cardiovascular endurance is impressive. But power without adaptability is a hammer searching for nails, useful only when the problem fits the tool. He leans back, giving Somrak space to process. Fighting isn't about proving your style is superior. It's about understanding truth, about your opponent, about yourself, about the moment where they intersect. Everything I showed you tonight, every technique, every principle, you could learn. If you're willing to empty your cup first, if you're willing to admit that what brought you this far might not take you further. Somrak stares at him for a long moment, his mind wrestling with pride and curiosity. Years of certainty are crumbling like sandcastles in rising tide. His voice, when he speaks, is quieter than before, stripped of bravado. Can you teach me? Not kung fu, not what you do, but how to see what you see. Bruce studies his face with the intensity of someone reading a book in a foreign language, seeing genuine transformation happening in real time, the rare moment when ego cracks and light gets through. Come to my school in Chinatown, Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 7 o'clock. But understand, you won't be learning Kung Fu or Muay Thai or any named system. You'll be learning to fight as yourself, using whatever works for your body, your mind, your temperament. I'll teach you principles. What you do with them is your discovery. Dan Inosanto watches with quiet satisfaction. He's seen Bruce do this before, not just defeat opponents, but transform them. Another witness, a boxer named Robert, will later say, "I saw a small man dismantle a champion through perfect understanding. That changed everything I thought I knew." The gym owner approaches Bruce, extending his hand. "I apologize for doubting. That was remarkable." Bruce collects his watch, preparing to leave. No celebration, no victory speech. He's ready to return to his life. Somrak stops him at the door, his voice earnest. "Why did you accept the challenge?" Bruce considers the question carefully, his expression thoughtful. "Every fight teaches me where my understanding is incomplete. Tonight, I learned your elbow technique needs respect. That's valuable." The story spread through martial arts circles within a week. In Los Angeles, then San Francisco, then across the country. Some said Bruce knocked Somrak unconscious. Others claimed the fight lasted minutes. The core remained constant. A Muay Thai champion challenged Kung Fu, and Bruce Lee responded. Somrak gave conflicting public accounts, sometimes saying it was a friendly exchange, other times acknowledging defeat. Bruce, when asked, simply said, "We trained together briefly. Good fighter." Witnesses told different versions. These contradictions increased the story's credibility. Real events generate multiple perspectives. 6 weeks later, Somrak showed up at Bruce's Junfan Gung Fu Institute. He never became a master, never reached Bruce's level of integration. But he learned. Unlearned the belief that one system contains all answers. Discovered that truth in fighting exists between styles, in the space where rigid forms dissolve. When he returned to Muay Thai training, people noticed immediately. He moved differently. His timing had improved. His defense had new layers. When asked what changed, he smiled and said nothing. Years later, Bruce told Dan Inosanto, "That night taught me I was still holding on to Kung Fu as identity rather than tool. The moment I had to prove Chinese martial arts worked, I was trapped by attachment. Real freedom means using what's appropriate without needing it to represent anything." The fight wasn't about Kung Fu versus Muay Thai. It was about rigid thinking versus adaptive reality, about the limitations of believing any single system contains complete truth. The story was kept quiet for years because Bruce didn't seek publicity for private challenges, because the witnesses understood they'd seen something that transcended sport or style. The night Bruce Lee dismantled a Muay Thai champion in 11 seconds, he took another step in his journey toward complete understanding. The legend doesn't need to be believed by everyone. It only needs to be true.